Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are back with another edition of the Underhive Wars. This is our series of Necromunda battle reports. This is battle report number 14. This is the second battle of our 5th cycle of our Peachtree Wars campaign. It is fought between my friend Warlord Ace with his 9/11 warband from House Van Saar versus yours truly with my jury from House Cawdor. So we'll be fighting it out for this one in a standoff scenario, just a good old-fashioned straight-up gang fight. So if you want to see exactly what the gangs are bringing for this battle report, we're going to play some background music real quick, show you some photos of the gangs as well as the rosters. If you want to see exactly what's on those rosters, just pause and take a look at your own leisure. Alright folks, let's get this on. Alright, so let's go and talk about the scenario rules real quick. This is a standout scenario, and here are the following rules. First of all, a gang with the highest kill count wins, and the winning gang also earns D3 times creds as a type of a prize for actually winning on this one as well. Also, the winning gang also gets territory on a D6 plus 1 roll of 4 or more, so if you win the territories, you roll a D6, add 1, earn yourself a new piece of territory. Also, we have some experience points bonuses, plus 1 experience point for the winning gang leader, as well as for any gang member that also survives, and you also gain additional experience point for taking people out of action. Now, when it comes to reputation, the winning gang earns 2 reputation points added to their roster. You also get plus 1 reputation for fighting against each other for the very first time, and since it's the very first time the jury and 9/11 have actually thrown it down, they both gain plus 1 reputation. You also get plus 1 reputation for each 100 points of gang rating difference. Now, because my gang is at this around 1750 and my opponent's about 200 points less than me, Warlord Ace will automatically get 2 points reputation for taking me on. And also, if your gang bottles out by the end of the scenario, you also lose that 1 point reputation for basically chickening out. And that pretty much makes the scenario rules for this one. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the battle plan real quick. As you can see, we're playing on a 4x4 table. My opponent's Warlord Ace is deployed on the far side of the table. I'm deployed on the near side of the table, and as you can see, we have the MTI Metro Transit Authority right in the middle. We have a lot of walkways branching off of it, hooking up to other industrial complexes as well. We got a lot of site blockers like, you know, barbed wire craters, that kind of thing. Pretty much my plan is I have a much larger gang, not just in terms of gang rating points, but in terms of the actual number of models I actually have. I think I have 17 members in this gang. So pretty much my plan is just to kind of take it to my opponent. I'm House Cawdor. We're not really good at shooting long range. We're really good at close combat as well as assaulting, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. My gangers are nice and cheap. I got cheap weapons. I'm going to take full use of that advantage and basically bring the pain. So what I plan on doing is actually sending up my troops right into the middle of the MTA terminal, right in the middle of the board, have them branch out from the different walkways and just assault 9/11. 9/11 is one of the smallest gangs that we have in our campaign, so it should be relatively easy to take them out. I'll of course have my support teams on the left and right hand side defend my flanks, while my juves as well as my assault elements just go in for the kill. And that's pretty much what I'm playing on for this one. Alright, so with that over with, we go directly to deployment. Over here on the left hand side is my first support team. Leading is my gang champion Stubber. He's got his heavy stub gun there. I also got 2 gangers right there as well. I got Zero as well as Lemonhead. Now normally Scorpion would be here too with his grenade launcher, but unfortunately for him though, he's suffering from a grievous injury. So because he will not be able to participate in this battle report. So this is my left hand flank. Right in the center is where most of my gang is located at. Starting on the left-hand side, I have Jockey. He's my gang champ. He's armed with a plasma gun. He's also got two other gangs with him as well, Mondo and DJ. Both those gangs are armed with auto guns. That's my assault team on the left-hand side. In the middle, I have two 4-man assault teams. On the left-hand side, I have Darkside, as well as Mad Teddy, as well as Tango. Those guys are all gangers armed with auto guns, as well as a bolt gun from Darkside, and then Riptor is leading that group as well. And on the far right hand side is my little Juvie squad. I got 3 Juvies in that unit. I have Tetsuo, Reptile, as well as Johnny, and then right behind them my VR, who's my ganger armed with twin auto pistols, leading that group. And that makes my deployment on my side of the table. On the left hand side for 9/11, we have up in the front, we have Moloko, as well as Nero, as well as Turop. Moloko's armed with a flamer. I believe Nero's armed with a bolt gun, and Turop is armed with a bolt gun as well, if I remember correctly. No, I'm sorry. Nero's armed with a plasma gun, that's right, and Turop is armed with a bolt gun. And that's a little 3-man assault squad here on the left hand side. Right in the middle of the table, on top of the triple-decker tower, in the middle of Warlord Ace's deployment area, we have another little assault squad led by Chopper. That's a gang champion who's armed with a heavy stubber. And then on the right-hand side, you have Tugs. That's a gang armed with a bolt gun. And on the left-hand side, you have Soljaz. That's another ganger who's armed with a bolt gun as well. And that makes up 9/11's deployment in the center. And finally, on the right-hand flank, right in the middle of this walkway here, we have the rest of the gang. Warlord Ace places leader Busta9 here, as well as his Juvie squad. He's got Rune Dog, Mega Man, as well as FNG, and Tough Shakes, which is a ganger who's armed with a bolt pistol, as well as a chainsword. And that makes up his right-hand flank. So with deployment over with, we go directly to the top of turn number 1, and we roll off for priority. Alright, so now we're off the top of turn number 1 for the House Cawdor. I managed to get the initiative on this one, so because we go directly to the action phase, and the very first thing I do is I take my gang leader Riptor and I activate my 3 Juvies. I activate Tetsuo, Reptile, as well as Giant the Boy. As you can see, I do basically a double movement, making them move up across the top of that bunker, climbing up to the top of that walkway there. Pretty much those are going to be my front screening guys. They're going to move in directly to the terminal as quickly as possible. That way they kind of make a bullet shield for the rest of my forces, and that way I can assault through as well. And that's pretty much what I do for this side of the table. Meanwhile, across the table, Warlord Ace then activates Chopper, who then activates both Tugs as well as Soljaz. As you can see, he keeps Chopper in the back because Chopper's carrying a heavy stubber, so because of that, it is an unwieldy weapon and he can't really fire it while moving, so because I just holds his ground. However, Tugs and Soljaz, though, they're armed with bolt guns, so that's not much of a problem at all. He moves them up a couple inches closer, so that way they get within full range of my Juvies, and both those gangers open up with their bolt guns, firing those things at full auto. Luckily for me, though, they do both manage to hit Tetsuo, but they're unable to wound at that point. They kind of flub their rolls on the wounding part. So because of that, Tetsuo is just pinned at this point, and he's laying on the ground. Now I'm thinking, no problem. The stubber is going to open up on my Chopper, is going to open up on my other 2 Juvies. Not a big deal. But the problem is that I made a miscalculation at this point. The problem is that I forgot that my opponent Chopper, his heavy, his champion, he has the marksmanship ability, which means he doesn't have to shoot at the nearest target at all. He can shoot at whatever target he wants to. So because of that, that heavy stubbing wielding Chopper decides to take aim at my champion Stubber and actually open up on him. And to make matters worse, not only does he manage to hit Stubber, he also manages to wound him as well. He also manages to make him become seriously injured. Unfortunately, Stubber also failed his initiative check, so because of that, he did fall to the ground off to the next level. He didn't get injured from that injury, however, he does have a serious injury from the shots from Chopper, so all I can really do is lay down on the ground and bleed at this point, which is kind of depressing. Anyways, that takes place in the action phase for my buddy Warlord Ace. So now to be outdone by 9/11, I then decide to activate my gang champion Jockey, and then also because of his abilities to activate both Mondo as well as DJ. I actually spend him moving up double movements up to the top of this walkway, so that way they can put down some long range fire upon anything that comes across that open field of fire on the left hand flank, and kind of protect my left hand flank from being attacked by the whole 3-man assault team. Meanwhile, Warlord Ace then activates Busta9, who then also activates his Juvie squad of Rune Dog, Mega Man, as well as FNG. He makes them basically all do a double movement across the table. They go across the gantry walkways. The 3 Juvies are on the second level of that tower structure, while Busta9 is located there in the back. So not much shooting because they're doing a double movement, putting a little pressure on my right hand flank with this movement here. For the rest of my turns, all it really is just me just kind of maneuvering my forces around, just trying to get to places real quick. So we're just going to summarize what I did. What I did is I took Mad Teddy as well as Tango as well as VR, and I moved them a double movement over to the right-hand side to the bottom of this terminal, so that way they can intercept as well, because that pretty much makes up the movements for my action phase, because not much is going on for that part. However, for my friend Warlord Ace, though, he activates Nero as well as Moloko as well as Turop. The first thing he does, he spins a double movement with Moloko, getting him behind cover on the walkway. He's armed with a flamer, so because that his weapon isn't actually all that far in long range. However, he just spins a regular movement for both Nero as well as Turop, and the reason why is because Nero is armed with a plasma gun and Turop is armed with a bolt gun. And both those guys open up against my gangers are located on the walkway across from them in the battlefield. They open up and actually cause some wounds. First of all, my buddy Mondo as well as my other friend Jockey, those guys are both seriously injured, so they're laying on the ground bleeding out, and they also managed to put a flesh wound onto Mondo as well. And since I have so many gangers on the ground right now, I will need to roll off to see exactly what happens to them, to see if I actually bottle out, because that's pretty brutal what just took place on the top of that walkway. Not to be outdone, I also activate both Limit Head as well as Zero. They try to shoot back with their last guns, but unfortunately for me, though, I was unable to hit them from the distance that I was at. So because of that, that pretty much makes it my action phase. So with the action phase over with, we go directly to the end phase. And to make matters worse, first of all, I have to take a bottle test. I successfully passed that bottle test, no problem. But the problem, though, is that Stubber, who's my champion, he actually rolls out of action. So because of that, he will need to roll off on the serious injury table to see exactly what happens to him at the end of their battle report. So right off the bat, my champion, armed with a heavy Stubber, is out of action, and that is a really bad idea for me. At the same time, Mondo does get back on his feet again with another flesh wound, so he is -2 toughness, which basically makes him toughness 1. So one more flesh wound, he goes automatically out of action, but at least he can still fight. However, Jockey is still down, so because of that, all he can really do is crawl away 2 inches, and that's exactly what he does, because he's still bleeding out on the ground. And that pretty much makes it the end phase on this one. So with that being said, we go directly to the top of turn number 2 for House Van Saar. And because the shooting from Chopper, as well as Soljaz, and Tugs was so good, my friend Warlord Ace decides to activate those 3 gang members once again. And once again, the brutality of their shooting abilities go across the table to that walkway. Now, if you notice this, you're not actually, your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. Every single Cawdor gang member that's on the top of that walkway has been shot and injured in some capacity or another. So let's go ahead and talk about exactly what happened. So my friend Warlord Ace activates, I believe it's Soljaz. No, it's Tugs. I'm sorry, he activates Tugs. That guy's armed with the bolt gun. So he rolls to fire his rapid fire ability on his Brooklyn, and he actually rolls 3. And since each target is within 1 inch of each other, the gun basically just kind of burst fires and sweeps across their line. So luckily for me, though, Reptile, he actually managed not getting hit, so he's okay. However, the second shot did manage to hit my Juvie Johnny. Not only did it manage to hit him, it also wounded him as well, causing a serious injury, so he's laying on the ground. Then it knocks over to Mondo, hits Mondo, not only does it manage to hit him, but also wound him as well. And when he rolled for the injury, he rolled out of action. So because that, Mondo will need to roll up on the serious injury table after he is done. But because the shooting is not done yet, my friend then activates Tugs. Tugs opens up with his bolt gun. Not only does he manage to hit, what's his name, DJ, but he also managed to wound him too, putting a serious injury roll on him as well. So best case scenario, that guy's just laying on the ground bleeding out. Worst case scenario, he rolls an out of action, or he gets a flesh wound and he also goes out of action anyways. So that right here, my whole line of guys just shot to pieces right there with bolt gun and fire. And then my friend then takes aim with his Chopper, which is his who's a champion armed with a heavy Stubber, and he rolls for the rapid fire ability. He rolls another 3 shots, and because both Limit Head as well as Zero or so, like within 1 inch of each other, he actually can hit both of them as well. Hits and wounds and puts down Limit Head. So Limit Head is now seriously injured, and then Zero also gets hit, also gets injured as well, and he's laying on the ground bleeding out as well. The only good thing that happened out of that entire shooting phase that just took place just now is that none of all my guys passed their initiative text. None of them fell off the ground. So that was actually kind of cool. But just like that, between 3 gangers opening with rapid fire weapons right in the middle of the table, half my gang is now out of action. Oh, not out of action. They're just out of being able to do anything. Half my gang is down, and that is absolutely horrible to see that happen. So that was absolutely terrifying, and that was just, oh my god, that was ridiculous. So now, to be outdone, I then activate my gang leader, then activates these 3 fighters, which is VR, as well as Mad Teddy and Tango. So as you can see here, VR does a double movement, walking all the way up to the top of that walkway outside of the MTI, so that way he can act as a bullet magnet for the juvies that are coming across the battlefield. At the same time, I also do a double movement for, I do a single movement rather, with Mad Teddy and Tango to get him around the corner of the MTI works. I do have them open up on Soul Jazz, which is one of the gangers who are on that triple decker tower shooting at my walkway of troops, but unfortunately for me though, they both missed their shots, so not much really happened over there, so that was kind of depressing. However, my buddy Warlord Ace then activates Bussin' 9, who then on turn activates his 3 juvies. As you can see, all 4 members walk up even closer to get a good line of shot against VR, and of course they start opening fire upon them as well, which is absolutely terrible. And I believe it was Runedog actually who managed to hit as well as wound VR as well. And then I think Mega Man was the one who put the flesh wound on him as well. So VR right now is laying on the ground, seriously injured with a flesh wound as well. So that was pretty rough. I believe FNG didn't manage to do anything else as well. Bussin' 9 also tried to open up with his bolt gun onto VR, but unfortunately for me, he just missed his shots. Because as you could just saw on the previous page, my buddy Warlord Ace had an awesome shooting phase during his action phase. So at this point we're just going to talk about what happened for the rest of the action phase, because nothing really happened in terms of shooting. It was all just movement that took place. First of all, as you can see, I moved up both Darkside as well as Riptor to the side of the MTA terminal, so that way they can lend some support to my right hand flank, which is starting to collapse. Warlord Ace then activates Tough Shakes and spends a double movement, having him catch up to the rest of the force on the left hand side, right next to Bussin' 9 as well as the Juvie squad. And then Warlord Ace activates Nero as well as Moloko and Turop. They actually spend double movements getting right behind that berm with the barbed wire there, so that way they can get some cover as they cross into the battlefield. And that pretty much makes up the action phase for turn number 2. So that being said, we go directly to the end phase. And because I have so many gang members down, I have to roll up to see if I do a bottle test. As you can see from the misfire die icon, Riptor has failed his bottle test, which means my gang will be starting to roll off the table. So that was absolutely horrible. Not only do I lose my reputation point from actually getting from fighting against 9/11 at the same time, that also means that the game is also pretty much over. So as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much takes to the end of the game. Ended up being a defeat for Lord Tremendous. And the reason why I decided to give up the game at this point is because when I rolled out for the serious injuries to see exactly what happened, I had Jockey, Limited, Zero, DJ, as well as VR. Those guys were all laying down. Basically, I lost 2 more members of my gang to serious injuries, and then the rest of them were just kind of with serious injuries. They went out of action so that they roll off on the serious injury table to see what happened to them, and the rest were still seriously injured, just laying on the ground. And I really didn't want to risk losing more guys than I had to, because my gang is kind of fragile at this point. So because of that, I decided to voluntarily bottle out. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go directly to the post game, because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, so let's talk about the post game real quick. So out of all of the gangs that got, all the gang members that got shot, I had 4 guys who rolled up seriously injured. So because of that, I'm sorry, not seriously injured, they rolled out of action. So because of that, I have to talk about what kind of injuries they suffered. So with Stubborn and Johnny, I actually got really lucky. Both those guys got rolled out cold, so because of that, they can take place in the next fight. However, Jockey as well as VR, they both suffered grievous injuries, so because of that, they will miss out on the next battle report if they should decide to take part in it. For advancements, I did have enough experience points to level up Johnny, my juvie. I made him up to a level 3. I gave him +1 to his cool, so that part was kind of neat. For reputation, I did earn a point of reputation for fighting against 9/11 for the very first time. However, I did lose that point of reputation for bottling out, so that leaves my reputation total up to 8 points. At the turf, I did work my turf for 40 creds, and also Riptor also worked a piece of turf for additional 30 creds, and together with that money, I bought frag grenades with both Tango as well as Mad Teddy. My 2 new gang members that I had. My new record now sits at 3 wins as well as 2 losses, and my new gang rating now is at 1,810 points. So things are not looking very good for House Cawdor at this point. However, for my friend Warlord Ace for 9/11, for injuries, nobody went out of action, so you didn't have to worry about injuries. For advancements, Chopper leveled up, and he learned the Commanding Presence skill, so now that guy can activate additional fighters as well, so that is pretty scary. Tugs, he also leveled up as well, getting +1 to his toughness, so even though he was enfeebled during the campaign, he's now back up to 3 toughness, so that's kind of cool. And then Soul Jazz also leveled up, learning the Specialist skill. In the end, for reputation, my friend Warlord Ace earned +1 reputation point for fighting against the jury for the very first time, and he also got 2 points reputation for winning the battle report. Not only that, but he also got 2 reputation for the rating of gang rating difference, because I was around 1,700 and he had 1,500, and so because they got 2 points reputation, which brings his grand total reputation pool up to 10 points. So So that's absolutely fantastic. He actually went from being a middle gang to up to being part of the leaders as well. In the turf, he did win only 10 creds for winning this scenario. However, he did gain one additional piece of turf, so that brings up his total turf pool to 4 hexes. He also earned 30 creds from working his turf, and after Busta9, Chopper, and Nero worked his turf to bring up additional creds, they ended up with 160 creds additionally. So in the end, they basically totaled up to 200 creds. In the end, they bought a heavy stubber for Soul Jazz because he's a specialist for 130 creds. They then hired a brand new ganger named Rango as well. Not only did they do that, but they also have Soul Jazz give up his bolt gun. They also have gave that bolt gun back to Rango, so that way he can use it as well. Now the new gang's record's at 4 wins as well as 1 loss. Their gang rating is at 1,785 points. So that's good to do for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty short battle report because I got my butt handed to me really bad by House Van Saar. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe because input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Google+, as well as blogger.com for all the latest and greatest going on for our hobby. That's good to do for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one with Spoils of War. You guys stay classy. Peace out.